Short-term thinking is one of the biggest business impediments, and most of the time, people don't even realize they're doing it. In this episode, we're breaking down why so many entrepreneurs get trapped in short-term thinking, the long-term consequences no one warns you about, and the exact steps to shift into a mindset that builds sustainable, scalable growth.
Hey, lady bosses, are you working even after putting the kids to bed but still not getting results?
Are you tired of spending money on ads that aren't getting engagement?
Do you feel burdened that you aren't fulfilling your purpose in life because you are so consumed with work?
I'm your host, Brooke Boltz. I'm an attorney and founder of Boltz Legal. I started my business and in 1 year was bringing in 7 figures and am now bringing in multi-7 figures.
And I'm your co-host, Rachel Boltz, owner of Boltz Media. I've helped many businesses build their online presence and increase their revenue through digital marketing.
Want to hear how we did it?
We are here to help you achieve your goals personally, professionally, and spiritually.
So kick off your high heels, sit back, and let's ignite that passion.
We're Miss Biz, where we're putting the miss in biz.
Let's get biz done.
Over the years, I've seen so many business owners sabotage their success without really even realizing it. And it's not because they aren't smart, it's not because they aren't driven, but because they're constantly making decisions from a place of right now instead of what's best for later. It's short-term thinking, it often feels good in that moment, but long-term, it can cost you opportunities, money, energy, and honestly, your peace as well. So today we're going to unpack why this mindset shows up, how it holds you back, and how to shift into long-term leadership, the kind that grows your business instead of keeps you stuck in the same cycle year after year.
So when you're stressed, your brain prioritizes immediate comfort over long-term strategy. Research shows that people under stress are 40% more likely to choose short-term rewards over long-term gains.
It's so true. I mean, how many times do you see people make impulse decisions because it feels good, or maybe their decision is just not to do anything at all because they know that whatever change that they need to make is going to require work or strenuous effort or take them out of that comfort zone.
Yeah. Also, fear of failure. Short-term decisions feel safer. Long-term planning feels risky, so people avoid it.
Yeah, and those two biggest fears, I know we've spoken about it before, but the fear of failure and the fear of rejection, they really can kill your potential and your calling where God wants you to be.
Also, lack of clarity. If you don't have a clear vision or defined goals, you'll default to whatever feels urgent instead of what's most important.
And I think that this area is where most business owners get stuck. Maybe they have the ideas or they have kind of like a gut feeling of where they should go or where they need to be, but they haven't clearly identified what exactly it is, what it entails, and the process that it takes to get there. That's why when you have a business coach, or maybe you're listening to other business coaches on podcasts or on Instagram, they're always talking about clarity, because having that sense of clarity is crucial to be able to really achieve your goals and profit from it.
And sometimes this is hard because if you have people in your life who you value their opinion, if they're not in agreement or if they have different viewpoints, then it can make you be less clear. I mean, yesterday my husband, with his business, he has a video game called Right Wars, and he was trying to make a decision whether to move the game from a computer to mobile on the phone. And to do that, we were thinking was going to be a major time and expense commitment of at least 6 months. And so there were just a lot of pros and cons. So I had an opinion. We were with some friends. They had a different opinion. He talked to the members of his team. They had a different opinion. And so for him to come to a place of clarity was really tough because everybody's opinion was different based on their own personality, their own interests, and their own experience. So I think sometimes when we're looking for advice from others, which is a good thing to do, it can cause us to be less clear because everybody has different opinions.
Yeah. Sometimes you can get clarity too from studying what other people have done in your industry as well. Because you're absolutely right. Like, everybody has different experiences, everybody has different preferences, but what really, really helps is seeing people who have been successful in your industry and kind of not necessarily following what they're doing, but using that as a guide for your decision making.
Yeah, that's good. Next is instant gratification culture. Social media has trained us to crave fast results, and this mindset bleeds into business.
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, I know social media has been a huge contributing factor to that instant gratification. But I remember, gosh, I mean, this was a long time ago. I started college when I was 17. And I remember one of my professors even saying then, 20 years ago, that we are a microwave society. And that's just what we have become over time, and the expectations just continue to get stronger, I guess you could say, with Amazon's 2-day delivery. You know, if it's running late, we're like, where's my package at? Whereas before, I mean, we would wait weeks to get something in the mail.
I think too, people sometimes have an expectation of what's to come, and so they start they make decisions based on what they're expecting, as opposed to what's actually happening. I have a friend, I'll never forget, that got a new job, and the new job was higher paying than where he'd been working before. And before he even started the job, he went and bought a brand new truck.
Oh.
Hadn't even started the job, hadn't even got a paycheck, hadn't even anything, but bought a brand new, I don't even know how much this truck cost, but it was not an inexpensive truck. It was brand new. And I'm like, did you want to get a paycheck first?
Yeah.
No, but it was like that instant gratification and that forward, thinking, I'm going to be making this much. It won't be a big deal to pay for this truck, and I'm going to just go do it now. And probably wasn't the wisest decision in retrospect, because you need to make sure you're going to stay at that job.
Yeah. Yeah, but a lot of people do that. I mean, how many people do you know that haven't planned for their retirement or saved anything at all? How many people do you know that kind of live paycheck by paycheck? And it's because of the decisions that they make throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the months and the years that cause them to get to that place to where, they really don't have the right tools to get where they want to be in the future.
Well, I agree with that, but sometimes there's just not enough money to go around to be able to do all those things. I mean, when I worked for a big law firm, I put very little into retirement, very, very little, because I just didn't have anything beyond, I was supporting a family of 4 on one income. And so I just did not have any extra money from paycheck to paycheck. And I also had $160,000 worth of student loans and all those things. So sometimes people are in positions. Yes, it's based on decisions they've made, but also, I guess I didn't have to go to law school and get $160,000 in student debt. But at the time, I thought it was the right decision to make, and now years later, it was the right decision to make. But in those interim years, yeah, I mean, I wasn't able to put much aside for savings at all or retirement. And I think a lot of people are in that position too, where they're doing the best they can, but there's only so much money at the time.
Right. I'm not necessarily talking about those individuals. I'm talking about the ones that go to Starbucks, 5 times a week, and the ones that kind of just blow their money without even necessarily realizing that they're doing that. Which, no judgment, but we're talking about short-term thinking, so that's why we're bringing it up.
Do you love the Miss Biz podcast?
Because we love you.
Here's 3 things you can do to show your support.
1. Write us a review. Apple, Spotify, and Google My Business are the best platforms to write a review.
2. Follow us on social media. Our handle is @MissBizPodcast.
3. Join our Facebook group, Miss Biz Nation, for exclusive content and behind-the-scenes footage. Also, ask questions related to your business and discuss topics from our episodes.
So burnout is the 5th one, and that is when you're tired, you choose easy sometimes, but easy rarely leads to growth.
And I think that you had mentioned one time in one of our previous episodes that we're naturally wired to be lazy, right? Like, I forget exactly what you said, but it's like something innate within us that...
Yeah, the path of least resistance, and you can look at it in nature, look at it in the alligator, look at it at the shark. You know, these are animals who are very powerful, who could be attacking humans left and right with full speed, but in reality they don't. And the alligator is the example that I've used the most because it will sit and wait and be hungry for days until an easier prey comes along, and they want to conserve that energy, and that's kind of how our bodies are too. When we eat something, where we want to hang on to it in case we need it in the future. We're always looking for that kind of path of least resistance, what's easier. So we have to train ourselves to do the hard thing. It's not what's natural for really any of us.
Yeah. I mean, when we're stressed, I can only imagine how much more that gets amplified. I think a lot of business owners, especially when they're first starting out, they have a general idea of what they need to do, but it's going to require a lot of effort, a lot of change. And so they don't necessarily want to put in all of the work that it's going to take to be able to scale and get to that next level.
Right. So here's some real life examples of short-term thinking. One is Blockbuster.
I remember those guys.
Yeah. When I was growing up, my parents, we didn't have cable TV or TV that had any channels at all on it. So we were only allowed to watch movies together as a family. And so every week we'd be at Blockbuster picking out new movies, and but Blockbuster isn't really around anymore, and part of it's because they didn't evolve with the changing times. They chose immediate rental profits over investing in streaming, which was the way everything was moving. And Netflix offered them a chance to buy, and Blockbuster turned it down. Short-term thinking cost them the entire industry.
It's so sad too, because they were such a legacy at one point in time, and just to see how, I mean, really kind of overnight they just disappeared. It was very, very sad. Kodak was another business that basically suffered as a result of this short-term thinking. They invented digital photography and buried it to protect film sales. So that short-term revenue over long-term innovation eventually destroyed them.
Yeah, that's a sad situation too. I remember growing up taking pictures and going to get them developed and being so excited to get them back. I can't even imagine that anymore. Now we just, like, if I go to get pictures taken, I immediately want to see them on her camera right at that moment, because that's what we're accustomed to, is seeing them right at that moment. We just, it's funny to remember back where things were. And I think that's a learning lesson from Kodak too, that they knew there was a better option, but they, instead of developing that out to be the first to really magnify it, they knew that they made more money off of film, and so they hid it and ran away from it, and then somebody else somebody else followed along and took over that market. So just a learning lesson that we can all learn from as well.
Yeah. So entrepreneurs you've met or are lowering prices to get quick clients. I see this a lot, where just networking with other business owners, I'll ask them how much they're charging, and they're not charging much at all. And it's because they want to get those quick clients in and out. And what that does, and I think some of that has to do with like fear of not being able to have clients, is having the lowest rates possible. But what that does is that just burns you out and stresses you out. It's a quantity game at that point.
Well, and not only that, sometimes it's just not sustainable.
Right.
Lawyers in the home insurance world, we recently have had to start charging percentages, and we never previously had to do that. And now I'm hearing we're all having to lower our percentages to compete with what everybody else is doing all the time. I've resisted doing that just because I know I can't make ends meet. I cannot sustain my business if I just keep lowering my percentages. But I hear it all the time. People come to me and say, well, so-and-so's only charging this percent or that percent. And I think there's just no way they could be performing a quality service at that low percentage, because the only way you can make ends meet is to take on a huge quantity. And when you take on that much quantity, you just cannot provide a quality service. Mm-hmm. And so it's a decision I've made that I'd rather provide quality services and at a higher percentage to be able to make ends meet than take on a huge quantity and then have clients upset because I can't return their phone calls.
Exactly. Another mistake is people will stop marketing the moment business feels busy. I see this a lot. I had one client I was running a meta ad for, and we were getting them a lot of leads, and we had the leads that we use Zapier to connect it to their CRM, so the CRM was automatically putting it as a new lead, and then they had their processes to call them and book them and schedule the consultation. And every time we would get, I don't know, like 5 leads, he would be like, oh, we're busy, stop the ad. And then like the next week he'd be like, oh, we don't have any new leads, go ahead and start the ad. So I had to put something in my contract that said, we will, unless there's like unforeseen circumstances, like we're not going to be constantly, stopping the ad, starting the ad, stopping the ad, starting the ad, like all the time. So that's something that people don't really think long term. Like, yeah, you've got a bunch of leads this week, but what about the next week? What about the week after that?
Yeah. I mean, I've heard your most important client is your next one.
Yes.
So you always have to be, looking for that next client. You never can be just feel like I've got this,
Right.
you've always got to make sure you've got enough for next week and the next week and the next week.
Yeah, because you never know what will happen. Starting 10 new ideas instead of finishing one. This is like your shiny object syndrome entrepreneur. How many times will people start all these different great ideas and then never get any of them finished?
Yeah, I can be this way. Until I had a team to help me, then a lot of my new ideas would never come to fruition because I didn't have the tools to do it all myself. Mm-hmm. So I'd have a good idea, but I'd have so many other things going on in life that I'd never be able to fully get them done. But now that I have a team, when I have that new idea, I assign out the tasks to make sure that it gets done.
Yeah. And if this is something that you struggle with, I would recommend referring back to, I can't remember which episode number it was, but it was about focus and really making sure that you minimize distractions. Because I think for a lot of people, I think the team is a big component, but I also think that they get distracted by other things and they don't necessarily focus, and there are proven statistics that show that multitasking are not effective. The most effective way to get things done is to start it and finish it.
Also, too, something you can do is book time on your calendar. I was taking a course the other day, and the first thing they said is open your calendar and book time each week to do these tasks. And I thought that was useful, because if you don't do that, then it's easy to just fill your calendar with other things and never get around to moving on to the next steps.
Yeah. Making emotional reaction-based decisions. I see this a lot as well, where sometimes people, and I mean, we're all human, sometimes we let fear or guilt or anger or anxiety really be the driver of our decisions, instead of weighing out all the pros and cons and really taking that time to reflect and think from a logical perspective.
Having a standout speaker resume is so important to booking speaking engagements. If you're looking to increase your speaking engagements, but don't know where to start with your speaker resume and you'd like to see a couple of examples, we would be happy to share ours with you.
Go to missbiz.com/contact and in the subject line type speaker resumes and we'll send you your copy today.
Sure. Also, hiring too late instead of planning ahead. I have witnessed this a lot. You know, you kind of have to be constantly paying attention to when people reach that overwhelmed stage, and before they get to that overwhelmed stage, when you see them, you know, I've always said that the key for me is when I see someone who doesn't ordinarily make a mistake starting to make mistakes, then I know that they need some help. And so that's always an indicator to me that I probably need to look at hiring someone to add to the team.
Yeah. And again, these aren't character flaws. We're not judging anybody, but these are symptoms of short-term thinking that is really good to be aware of. So we're going to break down what this mindset actually steals from you. And one of the major things is inconsistent income. If you're making decisions that are emotionally based, then you may not be consistent with having the same amount of income, you know, whether you're wanting to start the ad, stop the ad, or whatever the case may be. Also, burnout is pretty significant, and that comes from constantly putting out fires.
Another cost of short-term thinking is slow growth or no growth at all, chasing trends instead of building a brand, losing clients to competitors who planned ahead, lack of stability and confidence, and never reaching long-term goals because everything is urgent.
So short-term thinking is the fastest way to stay stuck in the same year over and over again.
Groundhog Day.
Yes, exactly. So if your daily actions don't connect to a bigger plan, they're just motion and not actually process. One of the ways that you can get out of this is to create systems for repetitive tasks. So systems create that stability, and stability is a space for long-term thinking. One of the best systems that I used for my business was Trello. Really having a project management system where we could create checklists and be able to communicate all information for every single client. That was huge in making sure that we were able to really see things for what they are and be able to kind of plan the next steps.
Also, you can build a 12-month vision before you build a to-do list. So look at the big picture of the full year and where you want to be at the end of the year, and then make your to-do list on how to get there.
Yeah. Make sure that you're tracking your numbers weekly so that data is going to pull you out of emotion and into strategies. One of the most common things that effective leaders do is they don't guess, they measure. And there's a quote, I forget exactly what it says, Something to the extent of you can't achieve success that's not measured, or something to that degree.
Next is delay the quick win in favor of strategic wins. So ask yourself, will this matter in 6 months? If the answer is no, then don't lead with it.
So true. And make sure that you're investing in those long-term assets, not just short-term relief. So some examples are your branding. Your branding is huge. Your email list building, training your team members, business coaching, content strategy, and automation. These may not feel urgent today, but long-term, they're going to pay off for the years.
Also, you can adopt this 70-30 rule. Spend 70% of your time on long-term growth tasks and 30% on short-term maintenance.
And choose consistent, imperfect action over perfect, sporadic action. This is so true. A lot of times people think that they need to have everything perfect or everything in place before they can move forward. And that's what keeps people stuck, because it's never going to be perfect no matter what you do. There's always going to be little flaws that you find or that you think are there. So just remember that consistency compounds and perfection delays growth.
Yes. Next is some mindset shifts to break the cycle. Future me deserves better than what stressed me keeps choosing. These are some quotes or statements that you can review and read and print out and put in places where you can see them all the time, to just keep reminding yourself to change that mindset.
Yeah. Another one is not everything urgent is important. This is huge. Because you'll have some clients where everything's an emergency all the time. So you want to make sure that you're recognizing it. But also, if you notice that it's a repetitive thing, start tracking how many emergencies this person is having. Because some people are just very, very anxious. So everything to them is an emergency. But you really have to make sure that you're not dropping everything that you're doing because it may not actually be urgent or important.
Another mindset shift statement is long-term thinking isn't slow, it's strategic.
And I'm building something future me will thank me for. So one thing I wanted to add, I know we're talking about short-term thinking and long-term goals. I do think that it's important to be able to pivot as well. We just started New Year. This is January 2nd, so it'll be sometime thereafter when you guys view it. But a lot of times people are pumped, they're ready for the new year, and they're like, I'm going to accomplish this, this, and this, and this, and this. And then sometimes when they get to that second or third item on the list, they haven't met it, or they feel disheartened, or they don't have necessarily what they thought they needed in place. So we have to be able to pivot, because what happens is a lot of times people will kind of stray. Or maybe your calling has changed, or maybe the direction that you were going to go, that's not where you need to be. So keep an open mind, have your long-term goals, but also leave some room in there to be able to pivot, to modify and adapt to anything that might come your way.
So short-term thinking feels comfortable now, but long-term thinking changes everything later. You deserve a business that grows, stabilizes, and supports your life, not one that constantly drains your energy. So if today's episode hit home for you, share it with a friend, a teammate, or a business owner who needs to hear this. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Miss Biz Podcast for daily tips, inspiration, and the real conversations you won't get anywhere else.
We appreciate you and are honored to be on this journey with you. We can't wait to help you, to encourage you, and show you how to grow personally, professionally, and spiritually.
If you found Miss Biz helpful, Please leave a review and share with others.
You can follow us on social media at Miss Biz Podcast.
For legal questions or services, please visit boltslegal.com.
And for digital marketing needs, please visit boltsmedia.com. Let's get biz done.